Hi guys, and welcome to another vlog. Today we're gonna talk about me having COVID. After getting home, some things happened, and just in case, me and Christopher felt that we needed to test ourselves, our test was positive. So let's talk about it. What happened? How did it work out? Well, first of all, I want to say Omicron is very different than the regular COVID or the Delta in that the symptoms are different. And I didn't know that. Whenever I've heard about Omicron, like on news, on everything, I've heard that it is a more highly transmittable but the lighter version of COVID. And there's a few things that kind of always have been touted to that you should look out for. You should look out for a high fever, headache, and a cough. Those are kind of the main things. And with also if you lose your taste buds, and I think it's like 89% of the people that get the regular COVID gets the strange losing your taste and all of these things. Now after I tested positive, I kind of deep dived in like what are the symptoms for Omicron, and found out that Omicron symptoms are actually very different. It is the sniffles. It is like high fever, but very short-lived. It can be a cough, doesn't need to be a cough, and it's only like 8% of people who get Omicron that lose their sense of smell or taste. So I didn't know that. If I knew that, we probably would have tested ourselves in the US, and we didn't. So how come we did test ourselves? Well, we should probably have tested ourselves when we got in to the airport. There was a possibility to do that, but after almost 24 hours of travel and not being able to sleep very well, both me and Christopher was very grumpy and very tired and very all of that, and we just wanted to go home. That was a bad decision from our point. Yes, that was a bad decision. But a few notes on that, like we've been wearing masks since we got home. If you didn't know, masks are more there to protect others than to protect you. Why? If you look at doctors and stuff, the reason why they wear masks when they're like in operating rooms or when they're interacting with people with bad immune systems, it's because so that they don't transfer their germs onto those people, not because they're worried of catching something from the other people. That's just how it works. So we've been wearing masks, we were keeping our distance, and we got home. We did that in Florida too. On the 31st, we went and got the kiddies. We did opt out of coffee with the kiddie sitter, and we did have masks when we were there. After leaving them, I started to have a cough, like just that like irritated, a little bit of a cough, and I completely put it down to have asthma. That I have asthma. I have two kinds of asthma. I have when I'm trying to run, stuff like that, I get asthma, but I also get asthma from cold weather. It's more similar to bronchitis. So my lungs react on cold weather, I start coughing, and I get liquid in my lungs basically. It does help with asthma medication, so it is part of my asthma. But when we were in Florida, because of the hot weather, I didn't use my asthma medication, and I forgot to take it when I got home. So I was like, okay, this is cold asthma, there's nothing more than that. But as the day went by, I started to cough even more. So Christopher said, well, let's just take the antigen test that we have in the fridge just for safety's sake. We did, and we tested positive. I'm not making this video for you to feel sorry for me or pity me for getting COVID. I'm not very sick so far. I have a little bit of a cough because of that, and because it's mostly active in the evenings and at night. I don't sleep so well, and I have a lot of fatigue due to that. I do have a pretty severe headache coming off and on, but that can just be migraines, you never know. So that is kind of my symptoms, nothing bad. I haven't lost my sense of smell or taste. Oh, I also am a little bit sniffly. I have a stuffy nose. And that was also the reason why I didn't think it was COVID. We most likely have had COVID since the States when I got this sunstroke. it might not have been sunstroke. I didn't feel like I had fever, but I might have had fever when I had that evening of chills. The reason why I was so certain it was sunstroke was because I took these water helping medication, and I felt a lot better after that. So I thought it's just like, okay, it's hydration, dehydration. 1 or 2 days later, Christopher came down with something overnight. Again, it was just one night. He has the chills. He's been out and about just as much as I have, so we thought that maybe he had another sunstroke. After that, we did more or less isolate ourselves in the hotel. Not because we thought we had COVID, because we never thought we had COVID. We only took the tests to be sure. But we kind of stayed in the hotel because we both were tired. And again, as you might have heard in the videos, we kind of got that down to, we've been go since the first day of the trip. We've been out, we had the Disney, we were out and about, like traveling from different places, like every day. And we're usually very much homebodies, sitting in our apartments, like we work from home. We never meet any people. We did isolate ourselves, but it wasn't because we thought we had COVID. Just taking it easy the last couple of days. We never thought, like, I got the sniffles there, and I was certain that was just my sinuses acting up. Like, I have chronic sinus issues. I get a cold every month, every other month, where I get sniffles and all that. It's just a problem I have, and I've had for a long time. I get headaches because I have my chronic migraines, and this was just at the end of my syringe treatment, and on top of that I had gone off my pills because of the rash. So I thought the headaches was just migraine. I also had the shakes and well, the tics in my hands and stuff, like I do get with my migraines at the end of my migraine treatment. So I just kind of thought that was it. I thought I was tired because I didn't sleep well because of the pain. I could only sleep on one side, and I couldn't sleep on my back because of the pain, and I usually move when I sleep, so I woke up a lot because of that. So I thought it was that was the issue. So we never thought we had COVID. We probably should have tested ourselves after that night, but not thinking, like, we had our taste buds left, and Christopher never had a sniffly nose. Christopher didn't have any issues. Right now, I cough in the evenings and at night. Well, Christopher has a little bit of a frog in his throat. Is that what you say? It's just itchy, so he has to kind of all the time. But that's it. He's not very sick. He's basically asymptomatic almost. He's back at work. I'm not. I have a sick day. We'll see how many sick days it will become. I'm way too tired. I don't sleep at night, so I'm way too tired, but I don't want to change my kind of sleep schedule too much. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. We traveled during a pandemic, and I must say, I think traveling now is different from traveling before, even though, like, now Omicron has really gone. When we traveled, Omicron wasn't as big as it is now. It were a couple of cases in each country. No one knew that it was this highly transmittable as it has been. When we traveled, we didn't know that this would happen in the world. I just want to note on that. If we had known that COVID was this transmittable, we most likely had stayed at home. When we traveled, it was still a low transmissible both in the US and at home, so it was on a very low place, and we did do everything to keep both us and other people safe. And I think that is the important thing when we travel. Should everyone be able to travel? I think they should, but I think they need more hard requirements on traveling and in countries. Like, I do not like that we lack requirements in Sweden. We have recommendations, but we don't have any requirements. And that has to do that we actually have a bigger sense of freedom in Sweden than they have in the US, which is kind of fun. They don't have the right to put in laws about using masks. They can tell you that you should, recommendation is to use masks in public transport, but it isn't a requirement because they can't tell you to. But there's like people have a tendency to actually go by the requirements. However, as this pandemic has gone by, less and less people do, because they are tired of living in a pandemic. And I think that is also an issue. I do believe that if you behave, you should be able to travel. Now, I must say, in the beginning of COVID, before we really knew anything, and when it was as highly transmissible as it was, Sweden didn't close down their borders, and like most of Europe didn't close down their borders. That was one of the reasons why the US closed down their borders. There were a lot of people that were traveling to like their summer vacation places from Sweden to like Greece, Spain, Italy, all of these different places. At that time, I didn't feel that traveling was a good idea, but that was, well, a part of it was jealousy, because I didn't feel that I was comfortable traveling, and I was kind of jealous of people who did. So I must acknowledge that. But a big part also I felt was that these people went on vacation when it was a highly transmittable pandemic, and they behaved like it wasn't. Like, they didn't go on vacation and had masks and kept distance, made sure that they treat other people with respect and treat themselves with respect. There were no vaccines, all those things. People just lived like the pandemic didn't exist. It was even a man who, we didn't have the requirement of taking COVID test before we leave. However, he did take a COVID test, he did test positive, and he left anyway. That is kind of the height of not respecting other people, and also not respecting himself, because like if he got really sick, he would need to be in the hospital at his vacation place, and that can be an issue because like here in Sweden everything is free. It isn't abroad. I think we do have some like European things that if you get sick in Europe, Sweden will pay for it. It was an idiotic thing to do. Now we have vaccines, and even if they're not 100%, they will give most people, much more people will have a much if they get sick, they will get a very low grade COVID, like I have. I'm not super sick. So far I'm feeling sort of okay, not enough to work, but definitely nowhere near having to go to the hospital. That not only removes kind of the pressure on the hospitals, because one of the things that I really feel bad is people who isn't vaccinated are taking up the places in the hospitals. So the people that have heart problems, people who have cancer, people who need life-changing surgeries or life-keeping surgeries can't get them because the hospitals are already full with COVID patients. Whether they are really sick or if they just need oxygen and stuff, they're taking up the beds, so the people that needs the beds are not able to get them. I think that is the big thing why I think everyone should vaccinate. It's, first of all, you won't die, even though it is a pretty low risk of dying in COVID. It's a much higher risk than any other disease. Like, I think it's like 5 million people that have died across the world. Don't quote me on that. I think that was the last number I saw, but at least in the US it's like 840,000 people have died in COVID. It's not have gotten it. 52.4 million people in the US have gotten COVID. That doesn't say if they got a severe version or a light version. It's just they got it. And out of those 54 point something million people, 840,000 people have died. It's not like the flu. Even if you kind of just say, okay, 840 people in 2 years, that would be like 420,000 people in 1 year. Usually the flu kills 60,000 people in the US every year. That's like 8 times that. So yes, COVID is dangerous. If you're not vaccinated, it is really, really dangerous. If you're vaccinated, some people, there will be a small amount of people that will die. They are usually people that have health issues already, especially like people that have the issues that I have, lupus. Depending on which part of your immune system that is affected, apparently seems like I'm getting a very good protection from my vaccine, which means that my immune system, the parts that need to treat COVID, isn't the parts that are damaged. But there are people where the specific white blood cells that kind of should create, like should be able to kill off, create antibodies and kill off the disease, they are enormously reduced, which means that when they get the vaccine, they will not get the full force help from the vaccine. There are people like that, and they are usually the people that die even if they are vaccine, even after they've taken the vaccine, because it didn't work properly on them. There are breakthrough infections because the vaccines are not 100%, but those infections are usually much smaller. If you look at like 67% of the US population has at least one vaccination, one syringe. So percentual 67 against 33, but it's still 33 unvaccinated, but it's still 99% or 98% of the people in the ER. So even if the vaccines wouldn't do their job, it would be 67% of the people should be vaccinated and 33 unvaccinated, but it isn't. It's the unvaccinated people. And the reason why I'm saying the US numbers is because I've been in the US, so I've been watching news and those numbers are in my head, while I haven't watched Swedish news, so I don't know what percentage is. I think we're like 71% vaccinated among the whole population, and with that you should know that we don't vaccinate from 12 and under. And I think when it comes to older people, it's like 80% that are vaccinated. So we do have a very high vaccination level. The vaccines work. Maybe not for everyone, but for most people. Vaccines will help you not get so sick. And vaccines also help from spreading the disease. The sicker you get, the higher virus load you get. The higher virus load you get, the more transmissible it is. The easier it is for someone to caught COVID from you. Our antigen test was very light, which shows to a degree of we probably don't have a very high amount of virus load. We're still isolating. We're not leaving the apartment at all. We're not letting anyone in the door. We are going to, when our food runs out, we are going to order food. If that is not possible, we have our neighbor, but we kind of do the exchange outside. So he leaves them outside our door, he leaves, we go out and we pick the products up. So that's basically how the plan is, how we're gonna work. Transmissibility is worse when you have a higher virus load, and when you're not vaccinated, it's much easier to get a higher viral load because you get sicker. The sicker you are, the more virus load. That doesn't mean that you don't transmit the disease even when you are asymptomatic, but you have a lot less virus load, which means that you will transmit less. However, people who are asymptomatic usually behave in a very different way from people who knows that they have the COVID, which means that they will not distance themselves. They usually don't wear masks, so therefore they spread the virus easier, just because they're not doing what the people who knows what they're talking about saying that we should do. I wish that people would vaccinate so that this would just disappear, the whole thing. I wish that we didn't have a pandemic. We now have a pandemic, so we can't really do anything about it. But yeah, we got COVID, not because we wasn't careful. Well, I can say the one thing: we shouldn't have gone into the elevator with other people. I think that was the big issue. There were a couple of points in our hotel. That is why we're pretty sure that we didn't get it at Disney. If we look back on how our interactions with other people was, there was a point, a couple of people in a couple of like days or on the same day that we went down to breakfast or went back up to our rooms, that a couple of children that have really bad coughs. Like, it was, this is probably COVID coughs. And then you're in the elevator and you can't really get out, and these children and their parents and the whole family doesn't wear masks. They are children, so I think one was in like 2-3 years old, maybe 1, 2, 3 years old, and another one probably was around 7-8, just approximately. Don't know if that is true. They didn't have masks and they didn't like cover their mouth. They just coughed right out into the elevator, which is a closed area, so most likely that is when we got it. We didn't reflect over probably getting it then, because we didn't know that Omicron was as different it was. So yeah, it happened, and hopefully it won't get worse, and hopefully we didn't give it to someone. Our neighbor have tested himself and he tested negative. He is going to take a couple of antigen tests. He took a proper PCR test now, but he's gonna buy some antigen tests so that he can test himself regularly, just here a couple of days, and see if he can get back to work. And me and Christopher are going to pick up some more antigen tests to see when we get better. As long as I'm symptomatic, I will not leave the apartment. Christopher should not leave the apartment until I am asymptomatic, and we both have tested negative for COVID. So when those two things are done, we will leave the apartment, but not before both of them are properly done. So isolation. We do have a balcony, so we can open the doors and get the fresh air, so that's good. We have the kitties here, so we have cuddles. I have my cross stitch, so I have something to do, and I've been editing some videos. Kind of my day, watching a lot of YouTube at the moment. That is the story. That is what happened. I wish I knew before. I wish I had looked it up. I wish I had taken a test. The only thing is, had we taken a test in the US, we would have needed to isolate for 14 days in the US, which meant we would have needed to extend our vacation, move our flights, which isn't super easy. And on top of that, we would have needed to get our car to the car rental place, probably, or prolong that. It would have cost us a lot of money, and it would have been hard because I don't know how to isolate in the US when you don't have your own home. Anyhow, so I'm glad we got home before we knew, but still I wished we had known and hadn't traveled back home. That's how it worked. That was how it was. Hope you all are keeping safe. I hope you all are doing everything to not get caught this illness. The cough isn't nice, really isn't nice. That you and your family are good. If you have caught it, I hope that you recover soon, that you don't get it bad. I wish all the best to you and your families, and hoping that this pandemic will end soon. That is all for me right now. We'll see if I will making videos while I'm sick. I don't know. But I'll see you later. Bye.